Welcome once again to The Last Dispensation. I am your host, Troy Abels, and we are going to put this puppy to bed. We are on the fourth video. Thought I was only going to do two, but I talked too much. So remember this, brothers and sisters. The Family, a Proclamation to the World. Read it. If you don't have it, it's on churchofjesuschrist.org. You can find that. And you could probably get one from your ward building and hang it up in your home. But read it, study it, and pray about it. Read and study the words from 2015 from when President Nelson was president of the Quorum of the 12 and what he said. I put it in my last video. And what they said about how things evolved and changed, moves and counter moves. Okay, so I want to get to finishing this whole four-part series on waking up to secret combinations and LDS perspective on conspiracy. We're done with the 30 points and the scriptures that we referenced with them, and I'm once again thankful to Mormon Chronicle. And when you go to independent websites that are members of the church, be careful what you read, and always be prayerful and careful what you read and study. And no, don't take the prophet's words just because he's a prophet. I don't need to read about it or study it or pray about it or the 12 apostles or the general authorities. We should be fasting and praying and contemplating things, going to the temple and fortifying our fortifications, putting on our breastplates and our helmets and our shields and having the sword of truth. I got this at a Renaissance fair. Okay, so we're done with the 30 points. Now we're going into what have church leaders said about secret combinations. I'm going to keep my comments brief. Let's just read through this, wrap this up, and start talking about other things. What have church leaders said about secret combinations? What do we know? That doesn't mean we won't come back another day and revisit this subject. I often do. And the second coming, eschatology, end times things. But I want to also talk more about heavenly, celestial, positive, faith-building, spiritually uplifting. That's what we need to conquer these things anyway. Think about that. It's not that the brethren aren't giving us what we should be getting. They are giving us what we need. We need the Spirit so that we can understand personal revelation, and maybe less people would stop leaving. Maybe less people would leave the church and would understand that they can too have answers like the brethren and sisters do. What have church leaders said about secret combinations? What do we know about secret combinations from Latter-day Prophets, seers, and revelators? It's interesting in reading those how they generally give a very different view than the one commonly held by members of the church. The following quotations are in chronological order. A secret band will sap the strength of America in the last days. Quote, I have seen the end of this nation, and it is terrible. I will tell you in the name of the Lord that a secret band will sap the life of this nation. Moses Thatcher, from an address given at the Franklin Ward, Franklin, Idaho, June 16th, 1882, and entered into the historical record thereof. So, it'll sap this nation someday. We are in the midst of great propaganda, and even the elect are being deceived. The propaganda minister, one of the beasts. We are in the midst of the great exhibition of propaganda that the world has ever seen. Quote. We are in the midst of the greatest exhibition of propaganda that the world has ever seen. Just do not believe all you read and hear. The elect are being deceived. Once again, the word elect is being used. That's by J. Reuben Clark, Conference Report, October 1941. Did you know that the Brethren were against the first presidency? Wrote a letter to our government that they did not agree with World War II because they knew that it was a conspiring war for conspiring men to get gain and to bring on a global government. And they failed. They failed in World War I and World War II. Either they failed or it was part of their plan. A global tyranny to be established by stealth in the last days. So it would be, let me reiterate that. It either, World War I and World War II either failed, because there were conspiring men that brought that together, brought things that were at little odds and exploited them with propaganda and promulgated a war. Either they failed and tried to bring about a globalist nation under a totalitarian, regimist, extremist, elitist group, or it was just part of them setting the stage for something in the future. We don't know. So anyone that says they know for sure, they do not know. I have heard some of the most educated and well-informed men and women speak about globalism, secret combinations, the Illuminati, the elites, and they don't have all the answers. And they'll tell you that after 25 years of studying it. They don't. We have little bits and pieces, and we try our best to put it together. That's why it's not important to hyper focus on these things, but it's interesting to talk about them, and it's important for us to be aware that they exist. That's why we're doing these videos. A global tyranny to be established by stealth in the last days. Quote, Satan plans to destroy liberty and freedom, economic, political, and religious, and set up in place thereof the greatest, most widespread, and most complete tyranny that has ever oppressed men. He is working under such perfect disguise that many do not recognize either him or his methods. He works through mortals. So it's not just his third. He does have a church. He does have his pacts. He does have his oaths and his covenants and ways that he does those things. Go back and read about Cain. Study Hugh Nibley, what he wrote. Look on the churchofjesuschrist.org. Look up A Strange Thing in the Land. I forgot it. It's like several parts, 13 parts, 14 parts, 7 parts. I can't remember. I'm going to have dementia later. And in there he mentions Cain making pacts, that the sons of God marrying the daughters of men meant those who were under Adam still left the covenant and married mortal. They were also mortals, the men, marrying women of the world that were pagan and under the lineage of Cain. They were pagans later, and they made their pacts and continue to make their pacts, just like you read in Ether in the Book of Mormon. So he is working under such perfect disguise that many do not recognize either him or his methods. First, close quote, First Presidency General Conference, October 1942. See, the brethren, this was at the height of where we got out of the 1800s, and then with the media, newspapers, the printing press, more books and periodicals, and the church growing, secret combinations were being exposed again, coming back. And that's why, and the church were somewhat isolationist from the government. We were still smaller in the 40s, and had more freedom to talk against those things that we disagreed with. There will come a day where the brethren will just be like, we have to do something. And it might just be go back to your homes and worship in your home. And maybe we'll still, I'm sure we'll be given guidance through our priesthood line of authorities, and maybe epistles and letters. Maybe we'll go back to reading stuff from them and how they did in the early church, where they were encouraging and inspiring the memberships of the different places when they were being persecuted. Satan has control now and is guiding the governments of the world. Quote, Satan has control now. No matter where you look, he is in control, even in our own land. He is guiding the governments as far as the Lord will permit. That is why there is so much strife, turmoil, confusion all over the earth. One mastermind is governing the nations. One mastermind. Remember, he is the God of this world temporarily right now. It is not the President of the United States. It is not the King or government of England or any other land. It is Satan himself, close quote. Joseph Fielding Smith, Doctrines of Salvation, Volume 3, pages 314 to 315. Socialism, communism is a conspiracy. Quote, we should accept the command of the Lord and treat socialistic communism as the tool of Satan. We should follow the counsel of the President of the Church and resist the influence and policies of the socialist communist conspiracy wherever they are found, in the schools and the churches and governments and unions and businesses and agriculture, close quote. Guess who that was? If you said Ezra Taft Benson, you're correct. Conference, October 1961. Communism was commonly spoken of in the 50s and up and even through the 80s, until the Berlin Wall thing and the Soviet Union allegedly collapsed. I think they're still at work. Now, I would like to let all of you know who do send me emails or comment. I mean, I don't get a lot, but if you feel the need to inform me that there's more to what I'm talking about, I probably already know, but I'm not dissecting everything. And no, I'm not talking about where communism really came from, that it was the baby of a much bigger organization, and I already get that. So you don't need to let me know everything that I'm missing, because I'm not writing a book right now, and I'm not going to make 50 million videos on globalism. That's not what we're talking about. That's not what I wanted to do this for. I wanted to focus on the Book of Mormon and the scriptures, and let us all be aware that there are secret societies that exist today, and maybe what they look like and how neat it compares to what the Book of Mormon says, and even the New Testament. Even within the 70 years before Rome completely annihilated Jerusalem, there were secret societies going on there too before that. within the Sanhedrin conspiring with the Romans. A vast worldwide secret combination to seek to overthrow all lands. Quote, concerning the United States, the Lord revealed to his prophets that its greatest threat would be a vast worldwide secret combination which would not only threaten the United States but also seek to overthrow the freedom of all lands, nations, etc. Ether 825. Ezra Taft Benson Conference, October 1961. I think we've read Ether 825. Yeah, we have. We can read it again real quick. For it cometh to pass that whoso buildeth it up seeketh to overthrow the freedom of all lands, nations, and countries, and bringeth to pass the destruction of all people, for it is built up by the devil, who is the father of all lies, even that same liar who beguiled our first parents, yea, even that same liar who hath caused man to commit murder from the beginning, Cain, who hath hardened the hearts of men, that they have murdered the prophets and stoned them and cast them out from the beginning. A deliberate conspiracy to destroy the U.S. Constitution exists. Quote, and do not think that these usurpations, intimidations, and impositions are being done to us through inadvertence or mistake. The whole course is deliberately planned and carried out. Its purpose is to destroy the Constitution and our constitutional government, then to bring chaos, out of which the new statism with its slavery is to arise, with a cruel, relentless, selfish, ambitious crew in the saddle, riding hard with whip and spur, a red-shrouded band of night riders for despotism, close quote. J. Reuben Clark, Jr., Church News, September 25th, 1949. Socialism, communism, conspiracy at work both at home and abroad. Quote, our priceless heritage is threatened today as never before in our lifetime, from without by the forces of godless communism, and at home by our complacency and by the insidious forces of the socialist communist conspiracy. With the help of those who would abandon the ancient landmarks set by our fathers and take us down the road to destruction. It was Alexander Hamilton who warned that, quote, nothing is more common than for a free people in times of heat and violence to gratify momentary passions by letting into the government principles and precedents which afterwards prove fatal to themselves. Close quote. Alexander Hamilton and the Founding of the Nation, page 462, also close quote, on Ezra Taft Benson General Conference, April 1968, and he was quoting Alexander Hamilton within that quote. There is no conspiracy theory in the Book of Mormon. Very, very famous words from our former prophet from the 80s. I must return. I have to go do some ministering to a lady that needs her and her laundry taken to the laundromat. I am not boasting of good works, but being a mere example to you that we should all go do ministering. I'll be back. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to end it here, keeping my promise that I would put this to bed. So I cut it in half. It went 45 minutes. I cut it in half. We'll end here and then come back tomorrow for the rest. And then we will go on to other more edifying and enlightening great principles of the gospel. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share with your family and friends. And I will see you soon. Today was Sunday. Happy Sabbath. It was fast and testimony meeting.
Also, I'd like to once again thank Mormon Chronicle for the information that I used to make these videos. Anyway, come back tomorrow, and thank you so much.